Salutations. Today's briefing, HIMARS for Australia. Why is Australia getting them? There's been a great deal of discussion over the past year about the HIMARS multiple launch rocket system being used in Ukraine. It has recently been joined by the M270 MLRS. What is the value of a multiple launch rocket system? Barrages of multiple launch rockets are very useful for broad area suppression against large formations, both before your own attack and against the enemy prior to its attack. Counter-battery work, countering the enemy's guns and howitzers, and for separate and distinct psychological impact. The Australian Government announced on 5 January 2023 that the ADF would be procuring the HIMARS. At some stage during the briefing, please hit the like button, it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Also, hit the bell icon to be notified of future briefings. This briefing will look at the M142 HIMARS, shown at left and not to be confused with the M270 MLRS, and why, or indeed should, Australia get it. So what did the Australian Minister of Defence's statement say? The HIMARS, together with other systems, was being procured to boost Australia's ability to deter potential threats to national security by substantially increasing the Australian Defence Force's guided weapons and explosive ordnance stocks. The HIMARS system will be used by 2026-2027, providing the Australian Army with a significant capability boost. HIMARS munitions currently have a range of up to 300 kilometres, which is expected to increase with technological advances. Not in the statement, but is believed that 20 HIMARS launchers will be procured. So what is HIMARS? The M142 HIMARS, High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, is a truck-mounted multiple launch rocket system that weighs around 16,000 kilograms and can have an armoured cabin. Based on a standard US Army truck chassis, it can sustain rapid movements over improved surfaces, but has some cross-country limitations. It has good strategic mobility, with one able to be carried in a C-130 Hercules and 3 in a C-17 Globemaster. With a high level of automation, it can be quickly brought into and out of action and rapidly fire up to 6 rockets, with the crew under armoured protection. So that is the HIMARS vehicle. What about the munitions it can fire? The HIMARS can fire 3 types of munitions. At the smallest calibre, 227mm, of which 6 can be carried in the pod, with the most capable munition currently being the GMLRS, so a guided rocket, with ranges given anywhere from over 70 to up to 92 kilometres. The GMLRS can have fragmentation or a unity warhead. An improved version, the ER or Extended Range GMLRS, extends the range out to about 150 kilometres. The largest calibre of munitions available is the 610mm Army Tactical Missile System, or ITACMS, of which only 1 can be carried in the pod, and has a range of up to 300 kilometres with a unitary warhead. A new missile, which Australia has been involved in the development of, is the 430mm Precision Strike Missile, or PrSM, of which 2 can be carried in a pod and has a range in excess of 500 kilometres. So the HIMARS can fire 3 different calibres of munitions with a variety of warheads over very long ranges. As with all things, there are pros and cons, and a multiple launch rocket system is no exception. The pros, well, compared to traditional artillery, rocket artillery can deliver far greater weight of munitions on a target in a given period of time and at greater ranges. The beaten zone, or the ground area struck by a bombardment, is larger than conventional activity, all other things being equal. Rockets and missiles also provide for deep precision fires without having to employ air platforms that would be at significant risk against a near-peer adversary. In terms of cons, well, MLRS systems have no ability to provide close support and are less able to provide consistent sustained fire. The resultant blast from firing makes its position more obvious than guns and howitzers. As a result, HIMARS, when used against peer and near-peer adversaries, will often use shoot and scoot tactics to avoid being destroyed. Because it is designed to fire its full weapons loadout very quickly, its ammunition resupply requirements are very high. And finally, rockets and missiles have some limitations in complex terrain, jungles, mountains, urban areas, given their flight profile. Given the HIMARS capabilities and these pros and cons of a MLRS, Where might the ADF employ this capability? Defence of Australia? Highly unlikely. There's only one country that has the ability to invade Australia, and the last time I looked, Australia-US relations were okay. Southeast Asia or the Southwest Pacific? Highly unlikely. Taiwan? It's highly unlikely the ADF would be sent to defend Taiwan in a ground force situation, and definitely not with the HIMARS. Korean Peninsula? See Taiwan comment. The Middle East? Well, the terrain generally more favourable for the use of an MLRS, and it's not as though the Australian Army has never fought there. Ukraine? How might the Army structure a HIMARS unit? With only 20 to be procured, and with systems needed for training and ideally an attrition reserve, it doesn't leave many for a unit. The most likely structure then for an Australian HIMARS regiment would be 2 batteries, each of 8 launchers, for a total of 16 MLRS launchers in the regiment. This would only leave 4 for training requirements and no attrition reserve. This would also not allow for the sustained support of the Army's 3 combat brigades. A better structure to support the 3 combat brigades would be a regiment with 3 batteries, each of 6 launchers, for a total of 18 in the regiment. However, this is unlikely as there would not be enough left for training, unless a greater training overhead is devolved to the artillery regiment. In summary, the HIMARS is an excellent rocket missile system that offers a good range of ordnance delivered over good ranges. It offers ease of ammunition resupply due to the rocket missile pod system, although the ammunition resupply requirement is high, and good air and improved surface mobility, but not good cross-country mobility. The HIMARS will provide the Australian Army with a capability it has never had. With the extended range GMLRS at 150 kilometres and the PRISM beyond 500 kilometres, the ground force will be able to conduct deep strike missions previously only done by air assets. However, operating this system in a high-intensity conflict scenario would severely challenge Australia's logistics capabilities and should lead one to ask why it is needed, given the ADF would be working in a coalition environment and considering the land attack capabilities of Australia's future AH-64 Apaches and the F-35s. One could draw the conclusion that the ADF has a requirement for land-based precision fires significantly beyond the range of conventional artillery, against targets likely not in complex terrain, and against an enemy that has a sophisticated air defence system. Where might this scenario play out? That concludes today's briefing. Thank you for watching. Happy to take suggestions for future briefings from subscribers, so please subscribe, like and share. Until next time, Vale de Cero.